Welcome to the Expansive CEO podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Chapman, founder of Expansive CEO and X Squared Wealth Planning. Buckle in as we explore how to create true prosperity and build a business and a life that expands beyond yourself and makes a dent in the universe. Welcome to this episode of the Expansive CEO podcast. I am your host, Hannah Chapman, and we are continuing our relationship series here on the podcast. And if you have noticed over the last month or so, we're going in through relationship through a lot of different avenues. And today, my guest and I are going to talk about our relationship to social media platforms, what it's doing to our actual real life relationships, and how we can maybe change how we are relating to social media for our businesses to create healthier relationships in real life and, IRL, right? So Mike Liguori is here with me. I'm super excited for this conversation. He's the founder of Live Your Truth Media. He's a strategic media growth, which is a strategic media growth agency that helps entrepreneurs amplify their brand through high impact content. So he knows social media. So he has expertise in YouTube growth, podcast production, and lead generation. Mike and his team handles everything from strategy to execution so clients can focus on their business while their content drives visibility and conversions. So, Mike, you are the perfect person to be telling us about this, to have this
Well, I'm
conversation.
really honored. Thanks, Hannah. I really appreciate it. And yeah, it's great to be here. So pumped to be able to have this conversation with you and all the things that we can talk about in terms of relationship in this media landscape that we're in right now.
Yeah. Well, from our first conversation where we didn't record it, but we should have, um, which is why so many times, I mean, usually a little back behind the curtain for the podcast, I don't usually have like a pre-interview with anyone. I usually record from the first get-go because we say so many awesome things. Like we should have recorded that. Yes. That was the whole point. That's why I started this podcast in the first place. So in our first conversation we talked a lot about, YouTube. We talked a lot about social media in general, and the way to utilize those platforms to have that visibility that we need as business owners, right? This is how we are going to continue to grow going forward in one way. But on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, you also shared how you didn't have any social media presence and built your business
Mhm.
to what, $500,000
Yeah, yeah,
without any social media. So, like, what's the real message here? It's still all about relationships, right?
that's right. Yeah. And, just to kind of dip our toes into the pool of this conversation for now, I think one thing that I want everybody just to acknowledge here is that this is a conversation where there is no right or wrong in this. It's just about talking holistically with relationships. And, when we had our conversation, and I loved the fact that we were really diving into the nuances and the intricacies of gene keys, and it was like human design and how that can influence your makeup and even your persona of how you present yourself. And the one thing that I have found that is drastically impacting the way that we're interacting is not just those modalities in which we are trying to discover ourselves, but it's the highlight reels of social media and this amplification of ongoing progression. Everything's always going up, from the stock market to relationships to, um, you know, the bigger house, the bigger cars. It's always just supposed to go up, and we're never supposed to encounter setbacks. And so, what is the impact of that on our abilities to create true, authentic connection if we're always expecting for things to go up? That is something that I feel like is a pandemic, an epidemic of some sort in our human experience. Is this idea that everything has to go up all the time? Bitcoin has to go up, stock market has to go up. My partner's supposed to, you know, have a better body at 50 than she did at 20 and is supposed to like never make a mistake and like, gets says the right thing all the time and we're always supposed to be going to the five-star resorts. And while that sounds great in the mind, what happens to us in reality, in our relationships with that? Are those expectations truly crushing us? So, um, that's our little dip into the pool of this conversation, I guess, from my angle on that.
Yeah. Well, and I think you gave such a good example too of, last year in the US, the stock market was up 40%. The S&P
Yeah.
500 in particular was up around 40% last year. And so if you were new to investing and you just put your money in an S&P 500 ETF or even in, bought one sliver of a Bitcoin last year, you experienced tremendous growth. And so this year, if we don't do that again, right, the expectation is now, well, that's what the market does, right? But historically, over many, 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 many decades, the historical average is 10%.
Mhm.
And that includes years where it's down, right? So if you were up 40% last year, you know, you might come down this year. You might experience a down year. And if you're expecting that, nope, it only goes up, or everyone says Bitcoin is only going to go up, so it has to go up from here, that can then lead to what happens in the financial market is it leads to very emotionally driven decisions based on what the market is doing, the volatility, and eventually fear, right? And then people pull out of the market and they go in and out and they end up losing money over and over again because they don't understand like the actual mechanics of a long term. When we talk about a long term relationship, right? Like, yeah, it's different. Every year is a little bit different.
Mhm. Yeah.
You can say that with people, with humans too, right? Every year is going to be a little bit different. You're going to go through different phases of life. You're going to have ups and downs.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're going to have an amazing year. Sometimes you're going to have not a great year.
Mm.
And that's all part of life.
Yeah, I think the world that we're experiencing right now is going against the nature of what the world really is and how we've experienced relationships over time. And what I mean by that is if we're spending hours and hours, millions of people all across the world are spending hours and hours on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and all they're seeing is the highlight reels of influencers and people of expertise and alternative information for health protocols or financial investing, and everybody's got a different strategy and tactic. And again, prefacing this whole conversation saying there is no right or wrong, but what I am wanting to point out and am pointing out in this is that what you're experiencing right now goes against the very grain of what human nature is, which is that friendships experience times, and we'll take friendships for example. Friendships experience times where you get really, really close, and then there are times you're not in each other's lives. Reason, seasons, lifetimes, right? Um, Businesses go through the same thing. Reason, seasons, lifetime. Sometimes you're in people's, in their life forever. Sometimes you're as a business serving a customer, you are in their life forever. Sometimes as friends, like you're in their life forever. But there are seasons where you guys come together and you're super close and you're hanging out every single day. And then there are times where things change. People get married, they have families, move to different parts of the country, different parts of the world. And when you're seeing things on social media, there's no reflection of that type of nature. There is no reason, season, or lifetime. It's only the posting of the events that I want other people to see to validate for myself that my own existence is really awesome. But what we're not showing is the grind, the setbacks, the disappointments, and the failures, which actually are part of the human experience and nature in general. It's not this is bad and this is good, it's a spectrum. In order to experience the greater things in life, I truly believe that you have to know what it's like to not have those great experiences because that's where gratitude and the appreciation comes from in that. Now you can imagine if we pivot to a business, if we think every single day, every single client and customer and viewers going to be happy with us with whatever piece of content we post, whatever sale we're running, you name it, then we're setting ourselves up for constantly being disappointed. And we're not taking into account the nature of reality and relationships, which is some customers come to you and they love you and they think you're absolutely amazing and they will stick around for 20, 30 years. And then there are some people where you're like, not my jam. I don't like your content. I think your content's crap. I think it's, it doesn't resonate with me. Or I think you're great, but just I don't align with your message. And what happens is that we are taking things so personal and we're making it all about, well, if it's not always getting better and people don't fully see me for who I am, then, it's not meant to be. And it's a very much like a very hardcore extreme cutoff in that.
Mm.
And I just think in a lot of ways, we're not honoring the nature of relationships, the nature of the world, the nature of like time, the ups and downs, the back and forths. Yeah, progress is all what we all want, and we do get progress. But I think the other aspect of that is that are we honoring the light and the dark? Are we honoring the positive and the negative? Are we honoring the imperfections and the beauty and the qualities in our partners, in our customers, in our team, in ourselves as either business owners, spouses, friends, even just being a human being? The question that we have to ask ourselves is like, are we honoring both sides of us? Is there a duality that we're appreciating in that?
Mm. I so being of the generation that really launched social media,
Yeah.
right? Like when I was I think it was a junior. I remember, yeah, that was the dorm I was living in. When Facebook started. I was a junior in college. And MySpace had been out for a few years, right? AOL chat rooms had been a
Oh
thing,
yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I
started there.
remember. I remember AIM. And
Oh
what
my
was
gosh.
my name on that? Do you remember your screen name
Mine
on
was,
that?
I think it was Flutie 50. Real, it's a band nerd, a real band nerd.
That was great. I think mine was. I think mine was like Luck O' the Irish 11. I think that's what it was. I was like a big Notre Dame fan when I was a kid. I like watched Rudy a bunch, and I with dreams of like I'm gonna go play football at Notre Dame.
Yeah, that's
That
good.
was it. Yeah.
Yeah, so we grew up in that. I was in junior high when the AOL chat rooms were a thing.
Yeah.
Not appropriate at all. Um, then MySpace and then Facebook, right? And I actually like what's interesting is how it's shifted even from then, from the very beginning. Kind of the joke with millennials, anyways, elder millennial, is that we would go out with our friends, take 1,000 pictures, and then post them all on Facebook,
Oh
the
yeah.
good,
The
the bad, and the
album.
ugly, and a whole album, tag all of our friends, right? It was a thing because our parents and our grandparents and our children weren't on Facebook, right? It was like literally meant for college friends. Um, and so it's funny because as we're talking about this, it's like there was something more authentic about that
Mhm.
too, right? Because it was all the pictures. It wasn't the good ones. You
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
posted everything. Um, And now, as it became more popular, as it moved more into the mainstream, as everyone's mom, grandma, child got onto Facebook, as I start or all social media, businesses started, seeing it and using it, it started to become more and more curated
Mhm.
to where, yeah, we're seeing people's highlight reels. And from a business standpoint, I've seen this a lot too with people like not knowing what to say
Yeah.
because they're like, if it's not perfect, if it's not polished, then we can't put it out there.
Mhm.
And it's like this whole image thing where they're not creating any relationships because they see the big influencer in their industry or other influence, like other people doing it this other way. And I don't look like that, or I don't sound like that, or I can't talk on camera like that, so I'm not going to do it. Right. There's that's what's kind of coming up for me right now is there, there's the picture perfect polished production side of it, and then the like I can't keep up with that, so I'm not even going to try.
Yeah. The increase in indecision for people showing up, even as business owners and entrepreneurs, is astronomical when it comes to content. And I cannot tell you the amount of conversations, interactions I've had over the last 3 years where I've spoken to entrepreneurs who are quite successful in the running of their business. They have an operation and a procedure in it. And in this new day and age where every single entrepreneur and company, I believe, needs to position themselves as thinking and creating as a media company. And I do want to say this doesn't mean go out and start an LLC or like a new company and say we're a media company now. It's more of a philosophical approach. Start thinking about attention, start thinking about connection, start thinking about trust and authority. And over the last 3 years, post COVID, what we have seen is we have seen people distrust the major institutions of media and are now starting to find these little micro communities in which they can go to somebody and trust them with their information around health, finances. It's no longer watching CNBC and hoping, like, oh, whatever Jim Cramer says, like, I'm just going to do it. It's those days are gone. And it's that main media cycle is dying as we speak right now. The the other side of the coin with that, though, is that entrepreneurs and companies have such a major opportunity right now to create trust and build their own communities and build their own customer base through their own pieces of content and expertise that these wonderful entrepreneurs have done over the last 10, 20, 30 years. But the indecision comes from this aspect of perfection. It has to be said correctly. It has to be done right. It has to be done in this way that, really gets me a lot of views and traction and what I like to refer to as vanity metrics. Yeah, likes, comments, and shares are great and they are good for engagement. But are you truly making a connection to the person on the other side of that video in fulfilling a need that they're looking for in terms of information, giving them something of value that can enhance or increase their life, or maybe bridge a gap that they have in their life? And are you building trust and authority through repetition and constantly showing up for that person? And what happens is entrepreneurs are seeing this distrust. I think society wise, we are seeing this distrust happening, and people are going on YouTube and they're looking for who's the next person I can trust, who's the next person that's going to like change my life, either from a health, wealth, love aspect, right? Those eternal markets that we all see. And I think with entrepreneurs specifically is that they see the success and the virality of some of these major creators online that they think that they have to be that.
Hmm.
And I just want to share with everybody that entrepreneurs, you are not content creators first, and then a business owner and entrepreneur second. You are an entrepreneur first, you are a content creator second. And the reason why you content create is because you are investing in yourself and your expertise and knowledge to build your own audience and your own customer base, your own viewership, going back to the media company model. So you have more control over your destiny to serve the people that you have brought in through you giving value, through your education, through your format and content. So the imperfection piece, though, comes from the fact that it seems like such this huge, audacious thing that I have to take on is now I have to build these millions of people, and then I need these people to follow me. And if I don't get this done, I've failed, I've bombed, and my business is ruined. Right. So we talked about the extremities of before. Everything's supposed to go up. We never look at the nature of things.
Hmm.
So to wrap this up, this is where a lot of entrepreneurs get caught up. And I just want to caution entrepreneurs that it's not the virality of one piece of content that is going to take your company public. Okay. It's it's the relationships that you build by consistently showing up every single week, trying to help them and investing in them. And the same thing applies in our in real life relationships with our friends and our spouses and our community of people? Can you show up every single week? Are you reaching out to people? Are you asking them what's going on with you? How are you doing? How's everything going in your life? What can I help you with? Do you want to come over and hang out and watch the game? Do you want to go meet up for coffee? It's like those little interactions that we really should be truly cherishing and valuing. And those should be the same methodologies that we use for our viewers. Show up every single week, check in with our viewers. How can I help you? What content do you guys want to hear from me? Who's got questions out there? Hey, I'll give you a free 30-minute discovery call. Just click on the link in the description of the show notes. I'm more than happy to help you. Yes, there's a business objective around that. I get that. But are you serving your customers in those little micro interactions? And are you doing that also with your friends in your network in your life as well?
Yeah, one of the pieces of the conversation that we had last time that was
Yeah.
coming back up for me as you were talking was around um you know again being in person, getting to actually like build actual relationships, and that because of the advancements that we're going to see with AI
Mm-hmm.
over the next, you know, year, 5 years, 10 years, decades, right? That we are just in the infancy of how AI is going to shift the game in a lot of ways. That, as we leverage that, as we learn how to use it, as we use it to making content easier and all these different ways, it's actually going to be the relationship that is going to be the most important aspect. That's how entrepreneurs are going to, you know, be successful going forward, is being the person that can foster that know, like, and trust, that can build the relationship with people, can maintain relationships, um, with their customers, with their collaborators, with their friends, right? Like, so maintaining these like individual and in-person relationships is going to be even more important going forward. Do we talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah. Um, Kind of my hot take, I should say, I should say, is that I believe there is going to be a massive premium on in-person and human experiences as AI continues to progress and evolve at the rate that it is. And I think in a lot of ways, we're looking at AI as being this operating partner for us, as this thing that gets things done. Write me this email, role play as a financial analyst. Like, how do I make the best butternut squash soup in all of Arizona and win this contest? Right. Like, people are just saying all sorts of crazy stuff in it. Right. I have friends that have told me they speak to Chat GPT like every single day and just feed it like crazy amount of information. And like, it knows more about them than they do about themselves, like, which is cool and also maybe a little scary, but I think it's, to each their own in that, right? I think it's fascinating. But what I do think that the fear around AI replacing our businesses and our jobs, and like candidly, I've experienced moments of that in my life where I'm like, oh my God, am I going to lose my company? Is like, are my people going to all go away? Like, are my customers even going to want to deal with me? Like, what about my clients' customers? Like, are they even going to want to deal with them because of the progression of AI? And what I found is that AI and humans are going to be working in collaboration with each other. And I think the ones that are really truly going to survive, progress, and grow in the future, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, is that are the human beings that are going to transition from the operating agents or the relationship with AI to leveraging that as a thinking partner. And I can't take that concept that I just said about the thinking partner because it came from a conversation I had with a gentleman the other day who's me and him were just on the same page. So it's more of me passing this on to everybody else as an agreement of that passage, right? Like we all should be looking at things as a thinking agent. And when I heard that, it resonated with me so much. And because of that, that's where I started looking at, wow, we could use AI to build so much more, that would actually take the redundancy out of and the tiredness and the exhaustion of the grind coming up so much for us producing content. The I don't know what to say, so I'm not going to say anything. All those like false starts and the walls that are there and getting ourselves out there, AI can remove all of that. But then again, it's like where's that allocation going if AI is going to move from the operating partner to the thinking partner, helping us grow and improve our lives and our businesses at scale? Where's the rest of that energy going? Well, I believe it's going to go to the premium of human experiences. Retreats are going to get more costly. You're going to see seminars getting more costly. You're going to see masterminds, in-person masterminds and meetups, because as human beings, the nature of us is connectivity. We have to be connected with other human beings. We have to have that social interaction. We are not robots, we're people, and people have to connect with other people in that. So I do believe that there's going to be a massive premium on people throwing events together. And I think people are going to have more time to do it. I think more people are going to have more time and energy and desire to be in that, because it can be very easy for you to have all these AI and robots and whatever you want to theorize in that take care of your entire life for you. And we're so used to being busy. Then we go, well, now what do I do with my time?
Mm.
And so the premium is going to be in those in person experiences. And I think the question that some of us may want to think about or ponder in this is that what's the story of our society and our relationships with each other as human beings going to be moving forward with this force that is artificial intelligence? What is it going to be? I don't have an answer for that. I don't know if anybody does.
I don't know. I don't know if there's a consensus
Yeah.
yet, right, on what that's going to be. Um, but I wholeheartedly agree that our our ability to form relationships, maintain relationships with other people, that's going to be the thing that shifts going forward. And I mean, even that's, you hear some people saying, okay, well, yeah, no, when they create, you know, the robot of a woman, like people won't have to get married anymore because
Yeah.
they just won't, they don't want to deal with it, right? And there are pretty significant movements of women around the world right now who don't want to have anything to do with men in relationships.
Mm.
And there's you can I can understand the pain that's coming from, that's grown out of.
Yeah.
And at the same time, that's where this partly what, one of the reasons for this relationship series is the other side of that, how interdependent we are, again, as a species, how much we need each other, how much we need community. We need more, and it's not just romantic partner, right? We don't just need a romantic partner. If you've um anyone's familiar with Esther Perel, relationship expert, relationship therapist, she has talked about that a lot, that if we put all of our expectations on one other human being, it's too much. So we're also not meant to just be in these, silos of two people, or a little family with two people and two kids or three kids, and just stay in your nuclear family. That's not what we're built for either. We
Mm-hmm.
are we are built for interdependent community, but it means, to do that, it means people are going to hit your triggers. You're going to hit
Yeah.
my triggers. I'm going to hit your triggers. And we have to learn how to navigate those times of, when you were talking about friendship, those times of, sometimes you're together all the time and it's wonderful, and sometimes you're not together at all, and you have different seasons of life. Well, yeah, sometimes you're together and you accidentally hurt each other.
Yeah.
How do you stay in relationship rather than throw the relationship away?
Yeah, it's so interesting because like that again mimics the closest relationships that we have interpersonally. with our spouses, with our friends, our family, that those same principles can exactly be mimicked in our customer relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And people do not see that. They think, oh, I got to keep work and life and my personal life separate. And it can be separate in some areas. You know, boundaries are very important. We can talk about that in the dynamics of relationships. But the most important thing is to remember is it's not separate. The principles in your personal life and how you treat people and interact people here is the same way that you need to show up with treating people who are buying from you and the people that you are hiring at your company that are going to be running things for your team and running things for your clients. How you treat them is how you treat people in your personal life, and is also a mirror reflection of how you see yourself and treat yourself. And this is all, you know, inner relationship dynamics, right? It all is. And I think the one thing that's really interesting about, you know, triggers specifically is, you know, it's never about what the person did to trigger you. It's what do you believe is the truth in what they did that triggered something in you, which is actually a deeper reflection for you to take a look at yourself.
Yeah.
Because the goal, right, in terms of progression, right, if you want to get into path of enlightenment and all of that stuff, but you know, the true path is, can I remove myself from the triggers in my life? And maybe you never get to the end of your life and remove all of the triggers, and right, that's okay. I think there's more, it's admirable in my opinion that the fact that you're even embarking on that journey to go and undo that type of conditioning, to remove the layers that a lot of this is just conditioning over your years of learned behaviors from your parents and the people that raised you from the time you were a child. Now, is this easy? Absolutely not. It's like the worst. It's the worst. I mean, even to this day, I still look at the things that trigger a crap out of me and I go, wow, like, man, that really like set me on fire. Like, why am I so like charged up around that? And I've gotten to the point in this journey where I've now looked at the relationship with myself, which I believe is the most important relationship you should have as not just a business owner, but as a human being. It's the relationship to yourself. And I look at that and I go, man, what was it about me that got so fired up about that? Like, what is it? And it doesn't mean that, you know, you're supposed to just remove yourself of triggers and like you're just going to be, you know, Buddha on the mountain, or, you know, or sort of spiritual master. It's just a matter of like, can you allow yourself to just be who you are and exist in that? Can you? So again, one of the biggest things that I have found in those relationships, not just from the trigger aspect, but when you're also looking at just from the lens of, you know, how we should be looking at each other and what are we prioritizing in this day and age. And I think part of that is that I just don't think we're really truly prioritizing our time with each other.
Mm.
I think we're such in a rush to get somewhere, to be somewhere, to do the next thing, to get back to business. Our phones are multifaceted, multi-purpose. We can text and email and do all of these things while we're having coffee with somebody. And we think like, oh, we're being ultra productive. But what you're actually doing is you're removing yourself from being truly present.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many times have you seen people like sitting at a dinner, eating out with friends, and they're on their phone scrolling on Instagram?
Mm-hmm.
Raise your hand right now if you've done that before. Right.
Or even on a work email, all right? Or
Right.
I gotta take this call, or like,
Yeah. Yeah. And
yeah.
especially when your partner's like saying something to you at a dinner and you're out on a date night, like, hey, I'm guilty of it. I've done it. And, you know, where, you know, my wife is saying something to me and I'm like, oh, I have to answer this email. And it's like freaking 8 o'clock at night on a Friday. And I get it. Entrepreneur, I get it. Like, you know, hey, you're running a business, but you do also have other times in the day where there's more to life that we need to value and honor, because I believe if your personal life is great and you're building relationships there, it's going to be helpful and better for you to build relationships with your team, with customers, with networking opportunities, you name it. They do go hand in hand in that. So I just think a lot of us for relationships wise is like we crave it so much and we want it so much. But I think a lot of times we're just looking at it as like trying to be in a method of productivity as opposed to looking at what relationships really are, which is like connection. It's
Mhm.
building it's building a connection with each other, seeing each other for our vulnerable aspects, getting to know each other, um, valuing who we are in that. And I think a lot of that is missing right now. And I do hope as society progresses that we get back to that.
The presence that you talked about, that to me, um, is what people are truly craving,
Yeah.
right? To be able to have a conversation where you're like really actually present with one another. Um, and again, it's one of the things that I feel is so one of the reasons I love having these conversations, literally like this conversation, right? I get to be present with this person across the screen and we get to have this like actual genuine interaction. And that's what your partner wants. That's what your business partner wants. That's what your kids want, right? Is the ability to have a conversation where you're present there. You're there with them. And that, going back to what you were saying before about there's going to be a premium on that. It's not just the in-personness, right? Because if we're all in person and checking our various emails, that's not going to do it either, right? It's going to be that power of presence in the room, of actually being there, being able to shut off the other information for a while and be in a bubble of presence. And that's
So good.
that's powerful.
Yeah.
So, Mike, I feel like we should have just a whole conversation on that, on presence.
I mean, we could, but something I'd love to contribute in that is, I think for a lot of us, the key to really what I have found in the agency business and just being with, being a content producer, content manager, content, creator, director, whatever you want to classify me as, or whatever. I can classify myself 20 million different ways, right? I like to say I'm a storyteller and I help people tell their story and make it more accessible to the world. And I think what I've learned so far is that the most successful creators in the world and directors and producers, you name it, and businesses really know and understand the story of their customer. And the only way you can get to know that story is you got to have a relationship with them. And that takes time. That you cannot shortcut that. So anybody out there who is wanting to really truly take their business to the next level, their networking, their friendships, anything in life, go look at your relationships that you have right now and ask yourself, are you truly showing up for that person? And is that person truly showing up for you? It works both ways. It's not just you. And then ask yourself to do that from your customer aspect. Am I giving what I can and what we provide to my customer with the highest form of integrity? Am I being transparent with them? Do I truly give a you know what about them? And are they doing the same? Are they meeting me where I'm at? Are they creating a relationship that's equal in its exchange? And not all relationships are going to be equal all the time. But if you're looking at it from a customer aspect and the agency aspect, what I believe has led to our success is the relationships. And that's like the secret that I believe is the thing that catapults people is that as you grow and scale and as you get bigger and as you start working on bigger channels and you start creating more content, it's relationships matter so much. And you can do relationships at scale. You can start saying, we're going to serve 1 million people, and these are the relationships we want to have with these 1 million people that are going to subscribe to us and become our customers at some point. And I think that's where a lot of people are so worried about the content piece we were talking about, right? Like that indecision point. It really comes from the fact is they're afraid to show up not perfect in a relationship.
Mhm.
Where actually the perfection that we're all striving for is just you being you and showing up for yourself. That's how you're perfect. You just be you. You just show up, you deliver, you say what you want to say, you speak your truth in that. And then you go and you say, okay, now are you going to show up in your truth? Said customer, said content manager, said client, said friend, spouse. Can we have a relationship based on each other's truth? And that's what I have found is really powerful for me, at least, and hopefully for other people out there who are in some sticking points in their business. Is that, are you speaking your truth? Are you living your truth? Are you really showing up for yourself and for other people in that? And can you allow that to be your business model?
Ooh, that's good. That's a excellent place
Yeah.
to wrap it up for today. Are you speaking your truth? Are you living
Yeah.
your truth?
Mhm.
Yeah. And actually being you in your business, and can you build your business that way?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Mike, where can people find you if they've been listening to this and like, okay, I need to know more about what you do and who you are? How do they get a hold of you?
Yeah. So you can go to our website, liveyourtruth.media, and find out about who we are, what we do, and why we do it. Connecting with me personally, you can find me on Instagram at Mike, M-I-K-E Liguri, Mike.Ligori. And you can also find me on LinkedIn, Mike Liguori. Connect with me. Would love to chat with you. I'm starting to post more content over there on LinkedIn because I really truly believe in this thesis of relationships through content and really helping people get unstuck from that and just start moving forward into showing up as themselves and being their truth as their personal brands. So you'll be seeing more from me from there. But yeah, would love to connect and help out any way I can.
Well, thank you so much, Mike, for being here today. All of
Thank
those
you.
links will be in the show notes if you want to grab them there. And as you know, you said earlier, if you have questions, I would love to receive them from you. Mike would love to hear them. If anything that we said really resonated, let us know. We need to have Mike on again so we can keep talking. I think I would like that anyway. So
Well, thank you.
yeah, but whatever questions you have, send them over. You can always get me at Hannah, Hannah, at expansiveceo.com for any questions for the podcast. And again, Mike, thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely my pleasure. Thanks, Hannah, for your time. And I really love this conversation. So hopefully we'll have to jump back on and shoot the breeze again.
Love it.
Cool.
That's it for this episode. Thanks for listening, and be sure to like and subscribe. And again, if anything resonated with you from this episode, I would love to hear from you. Email me at Hannah, Hannah, at expansiveceo.com and tell me about it. And if you're ready for your greatest expansion, you can find ways to work with me at expansiveceo.com and at x2wealthplanning.com. That's X, the numeral 2, wealthplanning.com. So until next time, remember that there is enough. You are enough. And your birthright in this lifetime is to be expansive.